You're tuned in to Getting to the Root of It, focusing on healing and letting go of the wounds of addiction and other unresolved traumas of the past. Your breakthrough begins with you. Are you ready to change your life? Stay tuned as your host, expert therapist, personal development coach, and spiritual cheerleader, Natashah Khan, inspires you to live the life you were destined to live.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Getting to the Root of It. This is your host, Natashah Khan, and today I have a very special guest with me that I cannot wait to introduce. We were just having a conversation about how long I have known this beautiful special guest, and it seems like it's been a little bit over a year and a half now that we've known each other, and I came to know her through my best friend, Nefertiri, who you guys have heard on the podcast before. And she introduced me to Miss Angela Love Lewis. First of all, love your middle name. Miss Angela Love Lewis is a visionary. She is an entrepreneur. She is an author. She is a publisher and a mom. And I'm sure there's so many other things I'm going to allow her to add on to that. But she is definitely, in my eyes, just a person to admire her strength and her courage and her tenacity. She's just doing an amazing thing out in the world and in her community, in uplifting and encouraging and empowering women in business. And she has published so many amazing books, and she'll have an opportunity to share with you guys a little bit as to what drove her vision to do all the things that she's done before and she continues to do today. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce Miss Angela Love Lewis. Thank you, first of all. I'm so excited, trying to contain myself. Welcome to the show.
Thank you so much, Natasha. I'm super excited to be here.
Can you add on or anything that I may have missed? You have so many titles. And I know it's not about the titles, but you've done so much. Is there anything else you want to add on to what you do?
You know, Natasha, it's a lot of things, with everything that you added. I mean, it all seems to just kind of go together, in empowering women and, really empowering people, because I know that I love the empowered voices that you do, because that's what I do as well. Empower people through their voice, but through the written word, to tell their story. And so it's all centered around just making sure that you're heard, and that if you are bold enough to go out here and start a business and be an entrepreneur, which we all know that takes a lot of courage and tenacity. And if you do that, then give you the power to talk about it, to be visible, to let the people know what you're doing. Because I think for so many of us, you become an entrepreneur and you have a vision, and things come at you so hard, and a lot of times it may knock you off your feet, and it may make you want to quit, it may make you have anxiety, all the things that sometimes entrepreneurs face. But at the end of the day, when God gives you a vision, I truly believe that no matter what comes, the Bible says no weapon formed against you shall prosper. It didn't say it won't come, it just said it won't prosper. We have to have the right mindset to know that at every step of adversity, you still have to keep going. I'm not saying you can't take a minute and take a breath and try to absorb it and deal with grief or whatever goes on, but still persevere, because that's what it's all about.
I guess that's a great point. How do you persevere? Because you said so many things there a few minutes ago. I just stepped into entrepreneurship last year. I'm just about a year into doing that. And I give all of the credit and thanks to you. You're part of the reason why this podcast is alive and launched recently this year and doing as well as it has. You've given me a lot of visibility. And I have to tell you, prior to meeting you, stepping into doing, working for myself and building this brand and building this business has not been easy. So I guess what I want to know, and I'm sure the audience wants to know, is you're human, life happens. So here you are trying to build your own business. You have a lot of different projects within your business. Now you've also stepped into, part of your business is helping other people with their business. So how does this human being persevere and be able to help all these other people while at the same time trying to help herself? Like, how do you do that?
I was getting ready to be very smart and say something good, and I was trying to think of the quote, and so because it didn't show up, and I wanted to say who it's by, but it's something to the effect, maybe you want to say it's Jim Rohn, but when you help other people, it allows you in turn to help yourself. And so my goal initially was really to encourage, because that's my nature. I love making people feel good. I love encouraging people. I love to God has blessed me to really see gifts in people. So when I see it, I don't want you to sit on it. I want you to, like, girl, you can do this really well. Why don't you do this and the other? So because I have those thoughts for people, automatically to be able to tell you what you can do and what you can do well and to encourage you, that's just a given. I don't even have to think about that. If I see it and I know that it's there, then I'm a pusher. I want to push you out there to do that. The byproduct of me pushing you is that it positions me for somebody else to say, well, like you told them, you should be doing this too. And it's just a byproduct of building my business as I'm encouraging other people. So I was able to, for me, a lot of times, they say that if you're not invited to the table, create your own. And
Mm.
so to create your own table was, for me, it looked like having my own podcast, having my own publishing company, having my own digital magazine, and then bringing people into my world and say, hey, I want you, if I'm doing this, you can do this too. If I see the benefit for me, I see the benefit for you. And it's just been blessed by God to be here and be successful and something that I enjoy doing.
Well, let me tell you, if anybody knows Angela Love Lewis, that's a pretty big table.
Yes, we want it to be a huge table.
You
Yes,
have.
because I know so many incredible people, Natashah, and even in just, the chain of effects that got me to even was starting out because, during the pandemic, everybody was trying to figure out what to do. And I had, started this group, called I Am a Woman Empowered. And beforehand, I was doing little events and things, and I had done one at a restaurant, invited some ladies, and it was a married or single, I Am a Woman Empowered. And so when I thought to do the group, I did like a 12-hour, girl, don't ask me what made me think of this, but a 12-hour I guess, symposium or summit, where I had 12 ladies every hour to come on and really talk about things that were empowered for them. And from there, I thought, well, what's the next step? Okay, let's do an anthology. And from there, Rhonda Williams Turner became part of that. And when she got done, she wanted to do Sister to Sister. Well, that's how she brought Nefertiri in. Well, Nefertiri knows you. So that's how you and I got connected. And it's all about, if you're busy doing your stuff, then God is going to bring amazing people into your life to help further your vision and for you to help further their vision. And it's just about being in alignment and again, persevering and not stopping, because somebody's waiting on you to show up so that they can show up too.
Wow. It's just amazing. You are truly gifted in knowing the talents of others. And you're also very gifted in drawing that out in them. Because where I sit today, as I sit here and I'm having this conversation with you on my podcast, I would have never imagined this in a million years when the first time I reached out to you, because I reached out to you with just the intent to say, I want some feedback and I want to get, familiar with writing a book, because I've been wanting to write my own book for a really long time. But you're truly gifted because you've opened so many doors for me. And I don't know that it was necessarily, it wasn't planned. It was just through conversation and meeting each other and you knowing exactly what I needed. And you knew exactly the right people to put on my path. I mean, I'm so grateful for Reverend Pat. I'm so grateful for Gail. It's so amazing of the way you do it almost so effortlessly. So far, the audience has been able to hear how amazing of a woman
I need
you
to put
are.
Natashah on my PR list, y'all, because it didn't get better than that, right?
But I want the audience, for my listeners, I want you guys to hear this message today and hear this story today of strength and faith and trust in Angela's belief in God and in a higher power. Angela, as much as I love to lift her up, she is the queen of all queens in my eyes, and she's truly an amazing woman. She's also a human being. And despite all of this amazing stuff that she's doing for her career and the career of other women out there, she still experiences life like each of us. Now, with this platform, I'm always talking about mental health. I'm talking about depression and anxiety and, low self-esteem, low self-worth and insecurities and grief and loss. So, Angela, in this last couple of years, between the pandemic and everything else going on, what has the human experience been like for you? And have you endured and had to endure any of the things I just mentioned, in addition to building your career and helping build the career of other women?
So, for me, Natashah, I feel like I've dealt with a lot of grief in my life. Even before the pandemic, my mom died in 2000, and she and I were very close. I was the oldest child, but I was the only child for the first 8 years of my life. So, it was really difficult to transition into, oh, so now you got siblings and now you got to do this and that and the other, so to be responsible, but at the same time to have been accustomed to all that attention. So at any rate, when my mom died, it was like my best friend. And it was really difficult because I had my two daughters. I went through a divorce. And so, it was difficult to transition in that, losing my mom at a time where I thought she would be there because my daughters were 6 months and 2 years old. So to think that I would be able to have that really caused me to build a wall up, emotional wall. So for an extended period of time, really even up to now, I can be very emotionally detached, and so wanting to really kind of get into that and see how I can unpack it, because some people do have depression, and I can't say that I maybe haven't had it, but I don't see it as depression because again, I'm emotionally detached from things, so I'm always thinking of the solution. What can we do? Give me my girl, one of my girls, look, and she'll kill me to say it out on this thing, but at any rate, she wrecked my car. Yeah, and she had taken a car, it was parked and she didn't feel like moving it to take hers. So she drove mine and it was raining. She slid and hit something, totaled the car. But however, my thing though was number one, are you okay? And then number two, because she was crying, I was just like, let me know what the end result is. So I know the appropriate level of where do I need to take action, and so that's always my approach to things. So even before the pandemic, my ex-husband died. 4 days later, my stepson died. Um, in 2020, of course, the pandemic hit. So we were dealing with, family members who died because of that, or they had COVID, so that was a very stressful time. More recently, from June 24th to July the 24th, I had 3 family members that died. So death is very difficult, and hard to, because you can't tell people when to grieve, how long to grieve, even with my mom being gone since 2000, I still have days where I'm like, I just wish I could talk to my mom because she can give me insight or clarity, or just kind of give me a place to be like, let me calm down. It's going to be okay. So I think for me, I have to draw on my strength in God, and I have to understand that no matter what, the end goal is never about me. It's really about, being here and doing whatever God called me to do. And is that easy? No, it's not. Is it fun all the time? It's not. I look at people sometimes and like, how people sometimes have hard relationships with their moms. And I can't imagine that. I'm just like, oh my God, I can't even see how you can do that. And so it makes me feel like, why is my mom gone when I loved her so much, when you got people who don't even care about theirs? But that's not fair either, so it's a matter of, you just have to, and suck it up is a hard word, But at the end of the day, you have to, life deals all of us different things. Some people have, extraordinary amounts of death. Some people have addictions that they deal with. Some people have health issues that they deal with. God didn't say, I don't know, maybe our spirits were in line to say, you know what, I think I can handle that right there. Give me this one, because if I did that one, I would fall out. We all have certain things. And so it seems challenging. And sometimes people don't know your backstory. So they just think like, oh, you just seem like everything is okay. And they don't know how often you cry. They don't know how often, you're dealing with things on the back end. Just because you smile and make it look good, that's the thing where they say all the time, check on your strong friends, because you don't know what they're going through.
Well,
Go ahead.
I think it's fair to say, that's one of the main reasons I wanted you on here. I will speak for myself. When I've seen you over time, I'm like, wow, she's always smiling. Life always seems to be going great. And they always say, don't judge a book by its cover, right? But as I've grown to know you through the year, and know that there's been some things that have happened in your life, I just like, she's human like the rest of us. Because I think sometimes we as people are guilty of sometimes putting people, whether that be our friends, our parents, or strong women on a pedestal. And when we put them up high on that pedestal, it's almost like they're no longer human and they become invincible, and like nothing happens to them. It's one of the reasons why I wanted you here, because I wanted people to understand that no matter how great we are in life and we continue to move forward, we are still human and we still experience human things, right?
Absolutely.
So let's talk a little bit about your strength. Where does your strength come from? I mean, that's a lot of loss. There are people out there that I work with that struggle with just one loss in their lives. And between 2019 to now, I've kind of at least 5, if not more, losses that you've experienced, right?
Yes, not to mention, I had a really close coworker, friends. I mean, I'm saying, there's just been a lot during that piece of time. But I guess, my father was a minister. My mom was really strong, my grandmother. And so somewhere along the line, Natashah, of just being able to understand that even when things happen, that's still the natural progression of life. That doesn't change. You know what I'm saying? Death is something that's going to happen to all of us. Loss, things are not going to go our way. Even from, you think little kids that go, it's not fair that you have to go to school and prepare to maybe have somebody come in and shoot up your school. So now you've got to go through this. That's not fair, and that's very traumatic for a child to experience. So you think you quantify whatever your experiences are, and sometimes we look at other people and say, oh my God, they're going through. Life is about how your attitude towards it. You have to really understand that whether you choose to look at it and say, okay, God, I'm just going to have to trust you because I need you to handle this for me, whatever that looks like, whether you choose to absorb it and process it and deal with it, it's still going to happen. It still doesn't change anything. Whether you choose to go and be promiscuous, whether you choose to go and, get into some type of addiction, whether you choose to, build a wall up and never, either way, the thing has still happened. And you still have to get through life until your time has expired. So for me, I have to choose. My choice is to say that even with what happens to me, I have to think that God already knew it was going to happen, and He's already positioned me to be here. And I can't be in position to be what I need to be for the people who are around me, or the people who are depending on me, or the people who are, expecting me to show up. Then how does that help them? Because maybe I take them off course. So for me, it's always been, it's really not about me. When things happen, it's not really about me. You know what I'm saying? It's a big old world. So it's very narcissistic for me to think that things are about me,
So true. And I say to people all the time, things doesn't happen to you, it happens through you. Some people say it happens for you, right? I'm a big believer that everything happens in our lives, good, bad, or indifferent, happens for purpose, right?
Absolutely.
There's something to learn from that. And when we talk about this power of choice, correct me if I'm wrong, but you had published a book or was part of a book that says you don't have to stay there.
Yes,
The title had, you don't have, and I love that because we have the choice to decide, do I want to remain in this place where this bad thing happened? and
Mm-hmm.
sort of wallow in that, or allow myself to become crippled and paralyzed in that? Or do I want to make a choice and say, I don't have to stay here? Yes, that happened, like you just said, right? And I love what you said about that narcissism. I think it can be very self-centered of us as human beings, that when things happen, to make it always about us, right?
Yeah. At the end of the day, then don't get me wrong, take responsibility because me, again, I'm human. I've done some things that, in hindsight, if somebody says, well, you're presenting yourself as this way, and maybe, your stuff is not all that it's supposed to be. Well, you have to take responsibility, but at the same time, you also have to understand that we are works in progress. And I can't live up to everybody's standard. I only can really be concerned, not really what everybody else thinks, but about how God sees what I do. And I'm still not going to always get that right because still I'm an individual, I'm a human. And it's going to be times where I'm not going to be that perfect person, and I can't be. I mean, so for me to try and do that, all I can do is try to be give 100% as much as I can. And for the times that I feel that I don't give it, maybe I feel justified, but at the same time, I also have to embrace the fact that I'm still not perfect. And I want to, some days I might want to be like, I want to cuss you out or punch in your nose, or I want to, do some crazy things. But then I have to think about the consequences and do I really want to do all of that? And so at the end of the day, I just feel like life continues to go on and things happen. But, you pray about it, you think about, some things, and sometimes things happen that you really don't want to happen. I mean, who wants to get fired? Who wants to get divorced? Who wants to lose a kid? Who wants to, what I'm saying? There's so many things that can happen to you that are very traumatic.
Well, I think that's an example of what you're describing is we all experience powerlessness.
Mm-hmm.
These are
Mm-hmm.
things that we can't control.
Yes.
And it's interesting you bring up perfectionist, because now I can talk forever about this. Perfectionism is a mask, right?
Mm-hmm.
It is, we like to think that we can be perfect, or we're striving to be perfect. But what is perfect? To me, perfect is like happiness. It's an illusion,
Mm-hmm.
right? Perfection is going to be what you make of it. But
Correct.
at the end of the day, it sounds like to me, it's all what I'm hearing, how you've persevered through, all the things that you've gone through, is all about that mindset, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's all about
Mm-hmm.
your perception of things. And at your core, or at the root of it, there's not you're not trying to hide anything. You're not trying to be fake about anything, because I find those that are the ones that are hiding their secrets, the ones that don't want to reveal things, the ones that don't want to own their truth, the ones that don't want to speak their truth, they're the ones that are trying to present this image of perfection, right? So when I hear you say to me that I'm not looking to be perfect, I'm hearing you say this, I'm working on knowing who I am and owning my truth and owning my flaws, right? Owning the good parts
Mm-hmm.
of myself, the not so good parts of myself, so that when life happens, it doesn't hit me in such a way that it paralyzes me and or it cripples me. So I want to hear
Mm-hmm.
more about your mindset. I want to hear more about how can people in this world today, what is it, tools, maybe skills, strategies, maybe something personally that you do? Because we can talk about something all day long, but a lot of times the application to what we need to do is oftentimes the most difficult. So if someone is
Mm-hmm.
struggling with a negative mindset or that limiting belief, I'm not good enough, I'm not worthy, I'm not deserving, I can't do this, I'm a failure. What
Mm-hmm.
can they do to help get them out of that mindset so that they can continue to move forward and move in, to continue with that upward and onward development of movement?
Okay. And I'm glad you positioned your question and you did all of that the way that you did, because for me, um, what struck me, what you said, is that being authentic to yourself. So for me, my girls will say all the time, like, you don't tell somebody anything, and I don't really have anything to hide. Like, is it things that I might not be proud of that I do or don't do? Maybe I don't want everybody to really know that, but at the same time, I don't have any problem saying, you know what, I didn't do that, or
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I dropped the ball there. And maybe that because God has allowed me to be that person, is what helps me to not really worry about it, because I think a lot of times we're so busy pleasing other people that, or you don't want people to see the negative things about you, or you don't want people to know that you're not that person that maybe they perceive you to be on the pedestal. Well, in order to deal with that, you have to understand that nobody is. When you understand that what you're striving for, say if somebody says, well, you know what, Natashah, I come to you and I talk to you about my problems, but I don't really think that you're a good person to talk to. And, you know, you may tell me things, but I just don't really like it because I don't like X, Y, and Z about you. But then they go somewhere else and find out that this person really doesn't know anything. I should have stayed with Natashah, because really, now that I think about it, I've gotten breakthrough. People sometimes don't know what they want until they see something else. And then they're like, oh, I didn't realize I had it as good. So for me, I think it is really about, number one, you've got to be able to see both sides of the coin when it comes to dealing with situations. You know, like say, I can, if you came to me and your daughter came to me, I can see both sides, you know. And even if I'm in a situation and I know that I'm wrong, and somebody says, well, he or she should have this, and this. Well, yeah, but I should have done that as well. And so when you see both sides of the coin, it really helps you to kind of put things into perspective. So it's not always about, oh no, they did it, and putting blame, because that's what we do a lot of times. We want to blame somebody else. Or you internalize and say, no, 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 it was all me. And I want to be the martyr, and I want you to feel bad for me, and I want you to see that, you know, they are the ones who did it. You can't be a victim, and you can't, you know, so you have to really just own it. You have to own where you are in your life, whatever those decisions were, and understand that the Bible says all things work together for the good of those who are called. And so even if it is an addiction and you've overcome it, then somebody had to see that even when you went through that period of time, that maybe because you went through it and you came out of it, it's hope for my son, or it's hope for my father, it's hope for whomever, you know, to be able to know that. So I think for me, it's looking in the mirror and owning your truth.
And that, so that accountability, right? You've got to be accountable to self. And for me, I was telling someone yesterday that transparency saved my life in my own recovery. As you know, I've battled addiction and overcome that, or continue to overcome that. And it's because of being transparent. You know, I come from a culture and a generation where we were raised to, you know, don't let the neighbors, don't air out your dirty laundry to the neighbors, right? So whatever's going on in life, it's got to stay within the home. And even there are certain things that happen in the home, you know, you don't want to tell mom and dad because you don't want to get in trouble. So you very at a very early age learn about keeping secrets, right?
Yes, yes.
And sort of keeping things to yourself. And I look back and I lived a life filled with lies and dishonesty, you know, toward myself and toward other people. Sobriety helped me realize that there's nothing wrong with being honest, right?
Right.
You know, and I said to somebody yesterday, there's this old phrase that these always say, the truth will set you free. People say it. People don't.
Nobody wants to do it. Yes, people say it all the time, but nobody wants to put their truth out there. But you know what? It's boldness, Natashah, in being able to speak your truth, and understanding that it can also be refreshing, because now my friend Tawana's grandmother used to say, never give somebody a stick to whip your behind with. Meaning that, you know, when you are out here, if you have a secret and somebody can hold it over your head, they have control over you. If you are afraid, if say for instance, somebody says, well, Natashah, I saw you at the job and I saw you get a stack of paper that you were going to take home and put in your own printer. You know, that's something they hold over your head. If you were to go to the people and say, well, you know what, let me just tell y'all that, listen, I took a stack of paper. I'm sorry. I don't have enough money and I needed to get some things done. And so if you need to fire me, or if you need to suspend me, 9 times out of 10, people may be like, well, you know what, you know, that was wrong and we're going to have to reprimand you, but we're not going to fire you because you did say something. I think we overestimate allowing people to have control over us, when sometimes you just need to say, hey, yes, I did it. I need to take whatever the repercussions are and move on with it.
Well, and I agree, but I think, and so what I'm hearing you say, because and I remember this personally for myself, I think there's a lot of fear that for me to get honest means I have to get vulnerable. If there's a part in there, like I'll use that paper example, that means I got to go tell somebody that I don't have enough money, that I'm potentially poor, right?
Mhm,
Not
mhm,
capable, right? Here comes some of those limiting beliefs, that
mhm,
mindset. So there's a lot of fear that is at the root of these limiting beliefs that there's something wrong with me, I'm a failure, I'm not good enough, I can't afford it. And now
mhm,
I have to go and sort of expose myself to someone.
mhm,
And I
mhm,
think a lot of times that holds people back from being truthful
mhm.
because they don't want to expose themselves. But you said something earlier. The bottom line is you took the paper. There's no changing it. The paper's taken, it's gone. So own it, you
But
know?
and also know that it's today is your paper, but for somebody else, it was a cup of coffee. For somebody else, it was
Yeah,
cheating on somebody's, cheating with
yeah,
somebody's spouse.
yeah.
There is nobody out here who can be in a judgmental position. And once you understand that, what you may look at me is like, I can't believe she did that. But I can also look at your life and look at something you did and say, I can't believe she did that. So for us, we just really have to, as human beings, understand that life is hard and you make a choice, you make a decision, and it's not always going to be a great one. But at the end of the day, as life continues to go on, you also have to be like, okay, Lord, I have done that. I'm not perfect. Help me to be better. Because again, Maya Angelou said, when you know better, do better. And sometimes we know better and still make bad decisions. And guess what? It's okay because it's still life. You know what I'm saying? From now until the end of time, if you live to be 100, don't you know that even at 60, from 60 to 100, that's 40 more years of mess ups, 40
Yeah.
more years of not getting it right. And you know what? It's okay because the world doesn't get it right. And so we put so much pressure on ourselves to live up to who told you that you have to be here at this stage of your life? Who told you that you're not good enough to get over and do this? Or who told you that you're not deserving of that? Who made that rule for you?
It's a lot of unrealistic expectations,
Mm-hmm.
and it comes back to there's this one group I do on cognitive distortions. It's our life experiences, is that exposure to the world and not just to our family and upbringings, just everything we've experienced in life. We draw these conclusions, we draw these perspectives without, to me, what's missing is the communication, because you're right. No one's told us anything.
Mm-hmm.
Someone may say or do something, and we go into the assumption of we think we know what they're trying to say.
Right,
And
right.
as a result of that, we draw that conclusion or that perspective. Oh, I must need to be that way too. Or
Mm-hmm.
they must not be proud of me, or I must not be good enough. A
Mm-hmm.
lot of the limiting beliefs that many of us have or have worked through comes from a place of a breakdown in communication within the dynamic of the relationship of that person and whomever's in their life, where they
Mm-hmm.
they experience something, and without truly understanding and processing what happened, they walked away with their own belief system.
So let's put a pause there. For me, I think for most people that happens in childhood. So say you and your sister are out here doing something in the household, and your sister, you're saying, don't do that because mom told us don't do that. And she does it anyway. When your parents come in, they're like, I can't believe you did that. And they're arguing and fussing and they put you on timeout or whatever the case may be. And they're like, Natasha, you knew better. And this, and this. And you're looking like, but it wasn't me. And you don't want to tell on your sister. And so you walk away feeling some type of way and you go through life based on that experience, whereas they could have came into to you and had a conversation and said, listen, because you are the oldest, I know that your sister did this and I know that you told her, but because the two of you are together, I have to administer this conversation. So I don't want you to take it personally because I know that you didn't do it. But we don't have those conversations. We yell, we fuss, and sometimes it's because we've had a bad day and I didn't want to come home and deal with this problem. But instead of me being able to communicate it to you, I've allowed you to walk away hurt, feeling some type of way, like I don't love you, I don't care about you, when in actuality, it's not even like that. But as children, we experience certain things. In relationships, we experience certain things. Somebody could have just got cut off by somebody and thought they were about to lose their life, come home about to tell you, and you come in and start fussing about a bill. Now they have
Yep.
changed the softness or the frustration and things they had to defending themselves and being angry. And now you guys have set a tone in your relationship
Right.
where I
Conflict.
can't come and share stuff. So it is about bottom line communication, and sometimes understanding that people come into your life with a whole lot of baggage. I don't care if they're smiling all the time. I don't care if you feel like they got their stuff together. People come with baggage, period. And sometimes baggages that they've never even unpacked it. You don't even sometimes realize that you are harboring resentment over some things. You know what I'm saying? Even for me, I might be like, for my mom dying, why did you leave me? Why would I said, don't leave me? Why did you leave me? And maybe for my life, anybody else who dies or leaves, I have a problem. So that makes it harder for the next person because I'm already expecting you to leave anyway. Whether you leave at year 1, year 5, or year 20, I'm already expecting you to leave. So bye.
Sure. You create that separation because you're like, I don't want to get too attached because the reality is that everybody that comes into my life leaves. But again, that belief came off of that life experience, right?
Absolutely.
There's so much more we could be talking about. We can
I
go
know,
on
right?
forever. I definitely, I love what I believe for any relationship, any dynamic that's out there, communication is key. We have to learn on how to talk to each other, right? I love what you said, and it's almost like what that example you used about the parent coming to the older child. You said that so eloquently, and I'm so glad it's recorded so I can go back and listen to it later because I just think our world needs that. We're living in a world where people are saying, well, my mother did it, so that's all I know. So I'm just going to continue to repeat that cycle. So I guess a great question for you is, did your mom communicate effectively with you? So that's how you learned to communicate effectively, or was the communication somewhat, distorted or broken and you had to learn on your own?
I think for me, because I'm a talker, so asking questions or wanting to know certain things, and I think because of our dynamic in the beginning, I was probably treated more like a little adult. You know what I'm saying? When I was younger, I absorbed information very quickly. So my mom could be with her friends, and they're talking and stuff. She would be like spelling stuff out that she think, and I was over there like, "Ooh, you said, growing up, I caught on very quickly to things, And so for me, and don't get me wrong, Natashah, even with me knowing, and let me put that out there too, for people, even when I know principles and about accountability and good communication, that doesn't mean that I'm always great at it. You know what I'm saying? I've been in relationships with my daughters where we haven't had great communication, or my husband where we haven't had great communication. And sometimes that also comes from hurt feelings. So that goes back to what you said in the when we were talking about the paper incidents, because sometimes you don't want people to know that they can hurt you, and the people who are closest to you can take your heart and slam it and step on it, and you're looking at them like, but I thought you loved me. Sometimes things that happen are not about love, and sometimes people are working their own issues out, and again, it doesn't always have to be about you, but the communication piece sometimes is very hard to be vulnerable with people that can crush your spirit and really do a number on you. So rather than be vulnerable and say, let's get down to it, you walk away, or you choose to ignore it, or you choose to continue to go on about your day like things are great when really your heart is breaking on the inside. And again, it's about the perception of being strong, the perception of being whole, healthy, But to be honest, each one of us can probably go to a therapist, but everybody's not going to go. So the alternative to that is being able to express yourself and understanding that, what do you have to lose? If somebody's going to walk away anyway, expressing your feelings at least would give them some clarity on maybe how things got to where they were. And I think a lot of times we choose to not be the person to share things because we feel like people will use it against us, when in actuality, even if they use it against you, at least you freed it, and now they can't hold it against you.
100%. I have a slogan: hurt people, right? So let's start off with someone hurts you and you decide, I'm not going to talk about it. I'm not going to say anything about it. I'm just going to sort of hold that in. You've just now, almost like in the Olympics or in a race where you carry the torch, right? You're now carrying that hurt that's been inflicted on you. That hurt is with you. So when you start to interact with others, new people in your life or other people in your life, they're going to experience that hurt. It may not be
projected.
Correct, because it may not be inflicted the way it was inflicted upon you, but it may manifest in a different way. Like you said, tone of voice, attitude, that limiting
Because
belief.
it's the familiarity with whatever. It doesn't matter that it comes in the same way. It's how it made you feel. So whenever you get into that position of, oh, I feel like how I felt when my mom said something to me. You know what I'm saying? Or you know how sometimes people may say, well, my mom said that's all you're good for is laying up having kids. Well, if you felt devastated, the next person that comes along to devastate you, your mind subconsciously goes back to the first devastation. And so now you feel inadequate. You feel like I'm not good enough. You feel all those things. So yes, and and I'm gonna tell y'all, everybody who's connected to Natashah when she's talking, do y'all see how well she can take what I said and put it into the terms? And I just love that. It's like having a whole session and giving clarity, because you do really well. That's why I love that you're doing getting to the root of things, because it is about unpacking things. And sometimes when you're talking, you don't even really realize. And that's why it's so good to really have conversations with people, because sometimes it gives you the light goes off, or as Oprah used to say, the aha moment. Sometimes you don't even really realize it, but you do extremely well with listening and then extracting that out. So that's why I love you. Yes.
Well, I wanted to touch on something you just said, because you hit the nail on the head when you said, and I want to make sure that I said it correct, because it's what was said to me. I was probably about 9 years old, and I knew my mother was angry. She does not remember the statement, but she said to me that all I would ever be good for would be to be flat on my back for a man.
Wow.
She said that in a fit of rage, and I have tried to address that with her, and she says she doesn't remember. But let me tell you something, that stuck with me at 9 years old, and that impacted me in such a way that it affected how I presented myself to men as I grew up.
And how amazing is that? I mean, you know what I'm saying? Because as parents or as people, our natural instincts, for whatever reason, is to lash out where it hurts, and we'll hit below the belt. So when you think about it, in what world would you say that to a 9-year-old? But at the same time, she doesn't remember it, because in her mind, it was probably not even, she didn't mean that, you know what I'm saying? No. But at the same time, it was designed to really get you so that you could snap. It's like throwing cold water on you. But what people don't realize is when you throw it on you, words never go away. I don't care how long I don't care if you really thought about it. It's like, you know what, I probably shouldn't have said it like that, because that's not what I meant. Nobody, once you put it out there, it's very hard to change a person's perspective. Oh, you didn't mean that. You meant to you were just telling me that because you didn't want me to do that again. I got it. I know you didn't think that you're never going to not, like, look at the age you are. You from 9 to where you are now. You still think about that. And you have to struggle to not let that color going forward, even when you know better.
It took some time, and it took therapy for me, because again, you're looking at a role model, and if this role model thinks this of me, what is everybody else going to think of you?
Like who else? I mean,
yeah. And it was one of those things that I didn't realize till I went to therapy, where the therapist pointed out to me that that's really where the root of my issues were with my mom, and how that affected not just relationships with men, but it affected relationships with women. At the end of the day, there was this feeling of low self-worth, and that I wouldn't be good enough for anything. And I will tell you, despite years of therapy, and despite me being a therapist and what I know, I have my moments in time where I will sometimes believe that I'm not good enough for something. And I have to very quickly remind myself that, God has made me, God has created me, and God has a plan for me. So get out of your mindset, and get focused back on God, and continue to travel the path that God's put you on. So I love the fact that you are just a woman of empowerment, and I'm very big on empowering others through our words and what we say. I was talking about this on a segment yesterday. People don't often think before they speak. They just say what they want to say in that moment, because again, how they're feeling sort of generates the words that are coming out of their mouth. And I think that if we are a little bit more mindful of recognizing what our limiting beliefs are, identifying how we're feeling, we can then be a little bit more mindful before we speak and say what we have to say. Because like you say, once it rolls off your tongue, you have no idea how that is going to be perceived and or received by another human being, and the kind of harm that you can cause to another person, which, not kind of, but is in line with this mental health issue and the need to increase awareness around mental health. There's a lot of people out there that are being bullied, people that are at a simple bullying, not that it's necessarily name calling, but just laughing at someone or behaving in a manner that isolates or segregates someone. People have no idea sometimes how harmful that is to another human being, because like you said earlier in the show, we don't take the time to often put the shoe on the other foot. Is that how they say that? Right? To be able to understand where that other person may be coming from. It seems like we've sort of walked away from that. And because we're so much more self-centered and focused on ourselves.
Yes, and I would say that one thing, Natasha, that I try to be extremely cognizant of, being active in the church, you have to realize that a lot of people experience church hurt, but at the end of the day, church hurt doesn't have anything to do with your belief in God. You're really being hurt by people who are inside the church who have done some things, whether they judge you by how you dress, judge you because of your lifestyle, judge you because of, your lack of finances, whatever the case may be. Well, that hurt comes from how someone treats you, and then you withdraw from God. Well, for me, I'm extremely cognizant of how you talk to people who may not be able to handle certain levels of information, and so somebody say, oh no, this, whatever their belief is. Sometimes you have to tread lightly, because one wrong conversation can cause a person to spiral out.
Sure.
And then never be able to regain something. And so you have to be very mindful with your words. But at the same time, it's like we don't think about that with children. We feel like children are resilient, or we feel like, oh, I'm going to just lash out at you because you're a person who can't necessarily retaliate per se. And I think sometimes parents take out on children verbally things that maybe they can't say to their bosses, to their spouses, to their parents, to people who they feel like are in authority positions. And so what I've noticed is that you're mindful of your words of people that you feel like are probably in positions that can't really do anything, but you always feel like, oh, children, it's going to roll off their back. But in that instance, when you think about bullying, when you think about, the verbal things, especially children can be cruel. Children can call you fat. They can say you're stupid. They can just say a lot of different things. They can say, well, you don't belong over here with us, so you can't sit at our table. It's so many things, like you said, to isolate you or separate you or make you feel less than or not qualified. And that may be because they're getting treated certain ways in their own household. And so to get control, because life, honestly, like you said earlier, it really is about power plays and control, and people want to feel like they're in control at all times. Because when you're not in control, you feel lost. It's like you're out in the water drifting, and you don't know if you're going to drown or not. So if you're looking for a lifeline, and whatever that looks like, if you can verbally abuse somebody, for some people, that's control. And it doesn't really matter that you're hurting somebody else. You're just trying to breathe and trying to keep from going underwater too. And even though you don't want to side with a bully, if you realize sometimes some of the things that they're going through and why they're doing it, it's just very hard to justify that and say, I'm not going to let what you say bother me, because it's not really about me. It's about you and your insecurities. You're trying to make me feel bad because you feel bad about yourself.
Well, and the reality is, the person that's doing the bullying, someone's bullied them. It's this domino effect, right?
It's a cycle.
Right. And at the end of the day, it's about everyone needing to be held accountable. And I think there's a difference between holding someone responsible and someone being accountable for their actions. And I think sometimes people may get that a little bit mixed up. I think a lot of times today, in the generation that we're seeing that's evolving, there's a lot of young men and women that are not being held accountable for their actions. And and I always take when we say this, the name of the show is to get to the root of it. And I know there are some listeners out there that may be opposed to what I'm about to say, this is not a blame game. This isn't to say that parents are right or wrong, good or bad.
Right.
But behavior and attitudes are learned. They're not something that we are born with, right?
Absolutely.
So a
Absolutely.
lot of the stuff that we see in our children, the way that behaving, we have to take a closer look and ask ourselves, where did it come from? Who or what or where are they learning this from? And it isn't just in school. It isn't just with their friends. It's the conversations they hear at home between mom and dad. It's the conversations that they hear mom might be having with her best friend over the telephone, right? It may be
Because they're
the
listening, they're watching
correct.
and listening to everything.
And all of that is shaping and influencing. And when there's not that open communication like we talked about earlier, that's what sets the stage for these limiting beliefs or whatever negative beliefs that child will start to collect and hold on to, that begins to really shape their lives. And I think a lot of times holds many people back from really pursuing their passion. It holds people back from truly living the life that God's called them to live. So, I can sit here and talk to you forever, Angela, but I want to say just thank you so much for just sharing your heart today. And I hope that our listeners can see that, Angela did not get to where she is today overnight, right? There's been a lot of obstacles in your life, a lot of things that you've had to overcome, but that mindset is everything, right?
Mindset is everything. And I will even say this, Natasha, even though someone will look and say, oh, wow, she's doing things, even still for me, I'm like, doing what? It's not really, you know what I'm saying? I'm not where I want to be either. You know what I'm saying? I'm
Right,
just doing some things and it looks so. Be mindful that when you're looking at somebody and you're trying to, emulate them, or you're trying to, really think like, wow, they got it. I could never do that. You don't have to do that. Do you? Do what's great for you, because it's all about your life and what you're going to enjoy. While we're here, we're really here for a small amount of time, and we don't ever know when it's going to end. It could be tomorrow or today later. It could be the end of the day for anybody. And so you have to start living your life and have the mindset that God has designed me how I am, and I always can do better. I always can get better. I always can surround myself with better. I always have a choice on how I want to live my life. And when things happen to you, again, it's not to say that it's not going to hurt you or bother you or traumatize you or put you in a drama situation, but it is like you mentioned earlier with Cynthia Marie, her movement is you don't have to stay there. The choice is yours whether or not you want to wallow and stay there, or if you want to say, you know what, yes, this happened to me. I'm going to have to, deal with it, but I don't have to stay in a negative mindset behind that. I'm going to still, if somebody gave you a diagnosis of terminal cancer today, until you take your last breath, you have time to go out and enjoy life. You can either choose to say, I'm going to die. I'm going to die in 2 years and 6 months. Or you can say, I got 2 years and 6 months to live the heck out of this life, and I'm going to go out here and make it the best 2 years and 6 months. And who knows, you might have 25. And let me share this story. My sister that recently died, she was diagnosed with cancer in, I believe, 2003. And it was an extremely short amount of time they gave her that she had to live. So notice I said she was diagnosed in 2003. She just died 2020, I mean, 2022. July of 2022. So her mindset was, until God tell me, I don't care what you say. And that's to say that she's went through so much with cancer and with treatments and with doctors reports that were negative and taking different things. And was her life easy? It was not. But guess what, she decided that I'm going to live until I can no longer live. I'm going to continue to go to work. My sister was in her 70s still going to work. So it is about mindset. It is about knowing that whatever life throws your way, until you close your eyes and take your last breath, you still have the ability to live your life. It's according to how you want to live it. You're either going to live it feeling sorry for yourself because this is what happened, or you're going to say, you know what, this happened, but I still have more life to live, and I choose to live it. I choose to want to see my daughter smile. I choose to want to go on vacation and be out at the beach in Cancun, living it up. I choose to, still put on other book publishing projects and do other things with my life. I still choose to say that maybe I want to do something different. Who told me that I can't? I choose to live that. I don't care that I'm still in grief mode. I don't care that I'm still struggling with other things that's happening in my life. I still choose to live life and enjoy it.
But I think it's very key for people to hear what you're saying, in that mindset is what can either eliminate stress or increase stress. That your mindset speaks to your mental health. And in the example you referenced with your sister, because she maintained a positive and healthy mindset, is why she was able to get the longevity and beat that cancer for as long as she possibly, her body would allow her to endure. Right? And that is what people need to understand. If I have this negative mindset, it comes with worrying. It comes with sleepless nights. It comes with obsessive thinking. It comes with just, projecting and always looking ahead, not wanting to lose control, struggling with powerlessness and feelings of despair. That is just a lot of weight. And with all of that weight on you, it stresses out your mind. It stresses out your body. It stresses out your spirit. Why wouldn't that make anybody sick? Right? But this mindset that this picture you've been painting of this mindset is one for me that would remind us of our anthology that you blessed me with being a part of, is I feel free. I feel that weight is lifted, right? Because it's almost sky's the limit. I can do whatever I want, and I have this passion and I can pursue it, I don't have that stuff weighing down on me. So it's just, I want people to hear and see how mindset makes the world of difference, where you can be flying free as a bird, or you could be weighted down as if you're shackled and handcuffed to a cage.
Absolutely. And I'll even say this, Natasha, you just spoke about, going through addictions and dealing with that. Looking at you, people would never believe that you suffered through an addiction. But then there are other people you can look at and say, oh my God, they look like they went through a lot. It is about your mindset and how you choose to come out of things. Because again, that stress and that worry, it's people that you may never know are dealing with some type of serious illness, because that's not how they carry themselves. But then there are other people who you're looking at like, oh my God, they look like something is wrong with them or whatever. That mentality weighs down on you, and it drags. It's like the gravity, and it pulls. So if you look at somebody who looks way older than they should be, or you look at people who are going through and you can just tell the weight of the world is on their shoulders, that way that you handle whatever you're going through allows that to pull you down and suck the life out of you. So again, it is about, for you were able to turn your life around, and now you have something positive, you have purpose, you have passion, you have something to look forward to. And because you do, people see that on you, and they see the love and the gift that you want to give back to help somebody else to overcome and get empowered to get to that level as well. And that's really what it's all about. When you're in your life, everybody can be empowered, in some form, maybe not, and it's levels to empowerment. Get to level 1, where it means that I need to see things from a perspective of, even though I'm here, I don't have to stay here. I may be broke today, but guess what? I might have $10,000 in 2 weeks, 2 months, a year. You know what I'm saying? You got to start looking at the possibilities, and it comes with a shift in your mindset, but you have to want to do that. You have to want to shift from being a victim to being someone who knows that no matter what, I'm going to be victorious. If God said that, Jesus came that we may have life and have it in more abundance, then that's the design. That's the end goal. You are designed to win. You just have to see yourself. And he didn't say it was going to be a win today. It's a process.
I think the one thing I want to mention before we wrap this up, because you've been saying it throughout, and I want to make sure the audience doesn't forget this. It is very important for all of us out there in this world, and I am not by any means preaching religion, but we have to come to a place where we believe that there's a power greater than ourselves. Because what I'm hearing in Angela's story, it's not just the mindset. The mindset is one. I wouldn't say number one, but it's one thing to do. But believing in a power greater than yourself is key, right? So that when we're feeling powerless and we're feeling stuck, we can seek, we can connect, we can reach out to the power of our understanding to be able to continue to pull us out of those dark places and bring us into the light. Right? I say that to our audience because I think we live in a world where people are struggling with, you talk about church hurt. we talk about, well, I don't believe in religion, but if we believe that it begins with us and ends with us, I think we're in a whole lot of trouble. And I'm going to tell you, I lived life like that in active addiction, where I thought I ran the empire and I was the queen of all queens. And, I was in charge of everything.
Mm-hmm.
But life showed up and this universe showed me that there are going to be things in this life that I can't control. There are things in this life, and losing my children for 10 years was, when you want to talk about powerlessness after being a very devoted and dedicated mother, and then all of a sudden my kids aren't in my life. And so then I got to this place of like, okay, well, I'm stuck. I don't know what to do. And because the God of my understanding that I choose to call God stepped into my life, has totally turned my life around. And it's that belief, that walk, and that growth in understanding who my higher power is and who he is in me that has truly transformed my life. And I hear you speaking today, and I'm experiencing the same thing with you. Everything that you talk about, you bring it back to the God of your understanding. So it's that mindset, and it's that spiritual foundation that I believe need to go hand in hand in order for us to be able to come out of those dark places. So for anyone that's listening out there today, this is not about preaching about religion, but it's at least you finding and seeking a spiritual platform in which you can stand on and that you can lean on in those difficult days and times. Angela, as we wrap up this episode, is there anything else you'd like to add? Anything else that you would like our listeners to hear from you today?
I would say first, let me say thank you for the opportunity to be on the platform. I've always loved everything about what you do. You're so eloquent and you have such a great understanding, and you make it so clear. And I think that's what people need to have clarity about, just the things that they go through, because it helps them to, move forward in life in a more positive manner. But for everyone else, choose to live your life on your terms. Be authentic to you, because you're the most permanent thing in your life. Outside of you, there's nothing else. It always comes back to you, but then you always have to have that foundation of knowing that you're here by design. And so again, like she said, it's not about religion. It's not about which particular religion you choose, but you should understand that you're here and there's something else that is sustaining you to be here. And if you can tap into that and then understand that there's always better. Every day can always be better. It's your choice. And if you do that, then it allows you to every day wake up, and whether you're in a good circumstance or bad, know that it doesn't have to stay there. You don't have to stay in that spot. It can always get better. And so if you believe that and you follow that and you live your life that way, you're going to have more good days over bad days.
Thank you, Angela. Now, before we go, I have to do this to her. She didn't know I was going to do this, but Angela is a visibility coach. So if there's any entrepreneurs or people considering to be an entrepreneur and wanting to step out there and get visibility or learn on how to build their brand and how to continue to pursue their passion, and needs to be elevated or needs to be empowered, needs to be inspired, whatever all that looks like, Angela, how can our listeners, viewers, be able to get in touch with you and connect with you so that they can do that?
You can follow me on my social media platforms at I am Angela Lewis. I'm across the board there, or reach out to me, send me an email, info@IamAngelaLewis.com. I'll be more than happy to connect with you, or reach out to Natashah. She knows how to get in touch with me. And let's make it do what it do.
Let's make it happen. Again, I can't thank you enough so much for being on the show. Thank you, listeners, for tuning in this week. I will definitely have a new episode for you guys next week. You guys be blessed. Thank you. Hi, my name is Natashah Khan. I am a personal development coach. I am a published author, motivational speaker, and I'm here with an opportunity for you today. Do you ever sometimes feel sort of stuck, not really sure where you're heading in life, or looking back on your life and thinking, I didn't quite always accomplish the things that I wanted? Do you struggle with fear and or anxiety, or you worry all the time? Or maybe you find yourself constantly giving to everyone else, but never really taking time to give to yourself. Or maybe you identify as a codependent and you realize that it's time for you to stop giving so much of yourself to everyone else and to stop and take time to give back to you. Well, you've come to the right place. On Monday evenings from 7 to 8 p.m. Eastern Time, I host a group that is a private group, so it's invitation only, to members who come together to begin to support each other, lift each other up, inspire each other, and learn the tools necessary on how to find their freedom, how to empower their voices, speak their truth, and discover their authentic selves. So if this sounds like something that you are interested in, you are welcome to reach out to me via email at empoweredvoices45@gmail.com. Again, that is empoweredvoices45@gmail.com. If you are looking to change your life, you are looking to transform and live the life that you've been destined to live, please